guys, this is Panzermeister36, and today we're going to be putting some pigments on the StuG. If you're a long-time viewer or have gone back and checked out some of my older videos that were in terrible quality, you might recollect this kit. This is a Cyber Hobbies StuG 3 Aus A Michael Whitman 1941, and as I always do, I didn't do the scheme in the box, and then I went with an Africa Core scheme using some crosses from like a Dragon SU-85, some 2s from, I don't know, I think it's either a Tamiya Panther or another Dragon Martyr 3, and then I used a, you can't really see it, but there's an Africa Core thing on the front there that was just from the Tamiya Panther 2 SG. And since the video, I've added some more stowage, some jerry cans, and kind of improved it. Done some washes over that because I didn't have washes and stuff when I first did this. I like the color now; it's darker, which is kind of what some Africa Core vehicles got. They're kind of more like a golden color eventually in the desert. So, pigments. Two pigments I'm going to be using are going to be these two. Track brown and dry mud, which is kind of like sand, but it's close enough. There's many different ways you can put on pigments, and there's not very many people know how to do it. I'm going to explain some of the ways on this StuG because it needs some pigments, because it's just brown down there right now. So over here we have matte medium, which is white glue, essentially. I think it's stronger or more fancy, I'm not sure. It's just as matte medium is what you get like an art store. It's probably better in some way. But you can probably just use white glue and dilute it. And over here we have Mig's Mud Splash Wash. I'll explain how to use that. It works the same way as their pigment fixer, essentially. So that will be useful as well. Now, mostly I'm using the dry mud pigment just to kind of add some caked on, not really sand, more like, well, I guess it'd be sand, but it'd be more like Tunisia, which is more of a rocky kind of place. And then I'll be using some track brown on the tracks on the upper hull. So I'll explain how to put some on. And I'll zoom you in on the tracks. Where are they? Right there. Alright, so I'm just going to get a little brush. Like this one here. It's not focusing, but I'm pretty sure this is like a... See where it's at? I think it's like a 0. I'm pretty sure it's a 0 or something smaller than that, like a 1 or something, or maybe a 1 below. There you go. So Mig pigments are some of the best. They're also quite expensive, but I don't know, I guess you get what you pay for. Not very much though. Like you can get a this is just how much you get, this tiny little box. Vallejo pigments, I get them at my store. My local hobby store. And they are essentially, it's twice as big. And it's half the price. It's $5 when the Mig pigments are 12 to 10. So we're just going to take some of the pigment out of here on a brush. And I'm just going to put it on the tracks. This is kind of like a dark brown, I guess, like burnt umber kind of color. I'm just going to dust it on the tracks right now. Not really caring about if I get any on the model because I can just take that off after. Alright, that's good. And I'll probably touch it up after. So take some of this Mig stuff. I don't think I closed properly because some of it went out. Alright, so this Mig Wash, I figured this out. If you kind of put it on, just as you would pigment fixer or like anything you're adding on after. Just cleaning up this spill that I made. It will hold the pigments on, and it basically doesn't change their color at all. And the way it does change the color, it kind of adds like a wet effect or something along those lines, depending on how much you put on. But you could do that also with you can put on a stronger effect with that if you use any other. I have some AK washes. They're like track brown, which is a very strong dark brown color, kind of like the color that the tracks are on the vehicle. So I'm just going to take my paintbrush, dip it in that, and then kind of dab it on these tracks that have been given the pigment. This is my way of doing it. I just kind of figured this out. Some people probably already know about it. Now for the sides of the vehicle, I'm going to be doing a similar technique, but I'm going to be putting the dry mud on instead of the track brown. Some people like to put down glue or mix glue with the pigment and get this kind of slurry stuff, but I don't think that creates a good sand texture. I prefer this way. So I'm going to take some of this dry mud. If I had some sand pigment, I'd use that for this stuff. Looks fine. And I'm just putting a lot of it on right now, under the lower hull where all the sand and crap would get caught. And any extra that falls on the ground, it's on an instruction sheet, so I'll just fold it in half and just pour it back into here. Now I shall be taking the track brown wash again and putting it on the pigments. As you can see, it kind of spreads along them. And it looks like it's darkening them, but it shouldn't, because once it dries, the colors should remain the same as they were once it was originally put on. Now this has probably been sitting for about 15-20 minutes, and you can already see the color coming back on the tracks on the rear deck. You can see the dust color is when it was originally brown because of the mud wash. It is now its original color. And if we look at the hull quickly, you can see it's drying. And sorry, you can see it's drying and it's already turning back. And you can see on the dry sprocket there, top of it, color's basically back already. So a couple more minutes and it should be good. So now I have just lightly put on a bit of pigments with this small little brush here. Just a bit, as you can see, I've just deposited them on the rear hull. I'm going to take this wide camel hair brush. I'm just going to kind of spread them around to make a dusty effect. Be careful not to break off any of these stowage pieces. Alright, so all the pigments have dried, and I'm going to show you the results. First of all, the dusting over the entire vehicle, as you can see, has definitely toned it down. There was kind of the weird chipping that I tried and I wasn't super happy with. It looked kind of how I've seen on some vehicles, but it has really been toned down now and looks a lot better. All the pigments, I put most of them on areas where the crew walks, so kind of along there, across there, and then some kind of along the front fenders there and there, where the crew would walk up, also along the front there. So because they're walking in the sand, they step up on the vehicle and it kind of rubs off. As you can see, the wheels and the tracks that I put on the back, they've definitely been toned down. The rubber on the tire was black before, and now it's definitely not that. And the tracks, I've applied some dusting over them, just as dust kind of settles down the vehicle because of all the sand flying around the desert. Now the pigments on the sides, I'll just show you here. As you can see on the wheels along there, it's essentially the same color as what that was before. I'd say it actually was the same color it was before. But inside there, the wash that was on before, that what was making it brown on the inside was a thick wash I applied of, I think it was dark wash for U.S. vehicles from Operation Iraqi Freedom. It was basically a dark brown wash for desert vehicles. And it kind of mixed with the wet mud effects, because I think they use the same thinner. So it kind of lifts it up and mixed back in, darkening it, and then now the color in there is a bit darker than it is on the outside of the places where it wasn't, so on the wheels and stuff like that. I guess it's an unforeseen side effect. I gave it a sealing coat, but I don't think I got kind of in there as much as I did on the rest of the vehicles, so I guess I'll just have to give it a quick coat with some kind of dusty paint, like XF57 maybe, just to tone it down. The rear of the vehicle did a bit of dusting there, and other side, the same thing as the side I showed you, and the front, a bit of dusting on the bottom part. You can't really see it because it's the same color. You can see it in real life, but not really on the camera, because it's essentially the same color as the vehicle, just a little bit more kind of yellowy pink. So now I'm going to give it a dusting with the airbrush. Now you can see that after the dusting with the airbrush, pigments in there are brighter now, as well as along the rest of the chassis with the wheels and the tracks. I also gave those a bit of dusting as well because they were kind of gray. The inside there is still darker, obviously, but when you look at the vehicle like this, it looks basically like a shading effect. If there's no light shining right in from the side, it just kind of adds to the depth of the vehicle. Yeah, so I hope somebody finds this technique useful. I just kind of discovered yesterday, working on the mud on my T80, because I was never really happy with that. On that, I managed to actually create wet mud, like semi-dry mud and dust, using only the dry mud pigment and a various array of washes. Like the track wash does a really, if you put it on instead of the wet wet mud effects or whatever, instead this makes it like dark, and this makes it a mid-tone. This is what was on before that made everything get darker. So yeah, then I got like an array of tones using that of mud, so that looks really nice. And I'm much happier with the effects that I've got on that now. So yeah, hopefully somebody finds this technique helpful. And thanks for watching, guys. Yeah, goodbye.